Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today we're going to be discussing a lot of things regarding to SSOU. This should be the first video up. It's not Metagame Monday, but there will be at least one, if not multiple Metagame Monday videos. It might be one on Monday and one quote-unquote Metagame Tuesday, or we might have two on Monday. We'll have to wait and see how I'm feeling, but I'm going to be putting out some content. One video is going to be this video, which is going to be the Viability ranking update. And then we're going to be having a Metagame Monday on how to take advantage of talk specs in the SSOU metagame. And then we'll have a follow-up video right after that. It's either going to be some just discussion of the metagame, or it's going to be team building. It really depends on how I'm feeling and what's going on. So definitely stay tuned. A lot of stuff pertaining to SSOU, and if you guys are into other tiers, I'm going to try and bring you guys some NU content within the next week, as well as more black and white OU or lower tier content, because Black White's 10-year anniversary is right around the corner. So definitely stay tuned, guys. A lot of fun stuff coming up in the channel. I'm also getting my new computer back tomorrow, well, technically today as it's past midnight my time, but yeah, so that's all going to be great. It's going to make things a ton more easy for me once I get it configured on Tuesday after my interview. So yeah, it's a really hectic early week for me, but once we get to the middle of the week, I'll be cruising, and I still got some really big plans for videos. So thank you guys so much for the support. You have 5,000, and here is me kind of saying, hey, I appreciate the support, so let me go out of my way to provide more content, and let's get into it. So this is the SSOU Viability Ranking Thread update. For those who don't know what it is, every single time this thread is updated, I basically go over the changes. It's meant to reflect the usage and what's good and what's not so good in the SSU metagame. To sum it up, I run the thread. We basically rank all the Pokemon in the first place, from the best Pokemon in S rank, then they go down to A rank, the pretty damn good Pokemon, B ranks like the so-so Pokemon, C ranks the fringe vital Pokemon, and then if you're not ranked, you're probably not worth using in SSOU. That's how you sum it up for those who might be a bit newer to the concept, but for those of you that are knowledgeable, great. If not, then you might want to check out my prior episodes of this. I've done more Viability ranking updates. It's all in my metagame analysis playlist, alongside lots of other stuff to get you situated with the metagame. So yeah, right now this isn't the biggest shift. We voted on a whole slew of things, but a lot of people wanted to keep the things in the A+ and S tiers the same. However, Pokemon like Amoonguss and Magnezone, and even on top of that, Aegislash moved from lower ranks to either higher in the A ranks or lower ranks to in the A ranks, so that's really cool. In addition, we see some movement in the lower ranks as well. We're going to get to that. We're going to go one at a time, and we're going to start with the rises. So the first thing that rose up was Amoonguss. Amoonguss rose from A- to A. Amoonguss has a recent uptick in usage. It has indeed seen a recent uptick in usage. It's able to check Pokemon like Urshifu Rapid, Zeraora, Rillaboom, and the list goes on. But those are three really prominent ones, especially with the lattermost, Urshifu Rapid Strike surging a ton, and Rillaboom just being pretty solid as well. So yeah, and Zeraora, I mean, it's not the most threatening Pokemon necessarily outright, but it's a great form of speed control. Having a consistent pivot to it that is not like super passive, because Amoonguss can pivot in and out with Regenerator, goes a long way. Another big plus Amoonguss is the typing. It's able to soak up Toxic Spikes, and it's able to resist things like Electric, Fighting, so it can pivot into like Urshifu regular one time, for example, and other things as well. It's unfortunately neutral to ground, unlike Tangrowth, but it's able to resist Fairy, which goes a long way as well. And it has status spreading options like Spore, Stun Spore, or Toxic, and Sludge Bomb's Poison as well. Personally, I like running Spore plus Giga Drain plus Sludge Bomb plus Stun Spore, but Toxic's viable, Clear Smog's viable, even Foul Play I've seen once or twice. I'd imagine Gastrodon is okay too. So yeah, I'd say there's a lot of things you could do that would make it so that using Amoonguss is worthwhile. I use it on a lot of balance teams personally, and I definitely would advise trying it out yourself. So let me know what you think of Amoonguss. It definitely has seen a more uptick in usage lately. It's went from kind of like a B rank threat to low A, and now it's a fully fledged A rank Pokemon, so it's one of the top 10 to 15 Pokemon in the metagame, and that's really great. Another defensive option that fits on the balance teams that you could use. Speaking of things that really thrive on balance teams, there's also Magnezone. Unfortunately, it's not a defensive threat, but fortunately it provides a great offensive presence, and it's a multi-dimensional one as well. There's a Specs Analytics set, which is absolutely devastating, and it's walled by virtually nothing. Analytic, Volt Switch, or Body Press is able to threaten things like Blissey, especially with repeated hits, and Flash Cannon is ground types like Rhyperior and Hippowdon, whereas Thunderbolt just nukes the entire remainder of the metagame besides Zeraora, basically. And it's not like Zeraora is taking multiple Flash Cannons and Body Presses either, so yeah, Specs Analytic Magnezone is a complete wrecking ball, and it's able to get in repeatedly. However, what might push it over the top into the A rank instead of A-, or still looming in B+, is the fact that people are running Magnet Pulse sets. In particular, they're running Choice Specs and Iron Defense plus Body Press plus Substitute plus Ether Discharge or Thunderbolt. The former, Choice Specs, is a great threat, much like Specs Analytic, but with a bit less power to it. However, it's able to get a one-shot on things like Corviknight and Skarmory, which can go a long way for it. Whereas when talking about the latter, the Iron Defenseless Body Press set, it's more geared towards just trapping things in particular. It's able to trap things like Ferrothorn as well, and it's able to also stomach some hits, and even get trapped something like a Bisharp, taking only 50-55% to knock off and killing it with Body Press in return. Body Press is also great if you Body Press on the switch into like X-Drill, for example. You could stomach an Earthquake afterwards with +2 defense and then take it out with Body Press. So that goes a long way if you use it wisely. It's definitely a bit more limited in scope, but I'd say it's a very viable Pokemon, and all in all, it has a collection of good sets. It can be threatening, it can be a great trapper, it's very efficient in what it does, and because of that, it's risen to A rank. Another Pokemon that rose to A rank, however, it's more in the low A ranks, is Aegislash. Aegislash is a great option, but it is a bit limited in what it can do, admittedly. Let me just move the screen in real quick. I think I could get a little more up. Yeah, oh, no. Yeah, that's better. My bad, guys, sorry. This computer is impossible to work with still. Anyway, Aegislash provides a convenient defensive presence that oh my god, I can't read. Aegislash proves as a convenient defensive presence that provides a great mixed offensive option. Yeah, so basically, defensively, it's able to check things like Alakazam, Kyurem, and even potentially 1v1ing other threats as well, such as, say, Rillaboom. It can stomach if it's locked into Woodhammer or Grassy Glide easily, or even switch into Tank 2 and then deal off a lot of damage in return, while also taking advantage of most fairy types with Flash Cannon. And offensively, again, it has Flash Cannon, but also Shadow Ball is very spammable right now, and close combat is great, hitting Pokemon like Tyranitar and Blissey for a ton of damage. It could just have a field day once you get some chip on Pokemon like Corviknight or Toxtricity, which is very easy to do in the current metagame, as there's some of the focal Pokemon to kind of see yourself abusing in team building. It's capable of soft checking Pokemon while also being something that's very hard to counter in the long haul, and because of that, Aegislash finds itself surging up back in usage, and that's really cool. Another Pokemon that you don't necessarily see as a huge OU Pokemon, but despite being RU is really cool right now, is Rhyperior. Choice Band Rhyperior actually surfaced very recently, not only on my channel, but also in some tournament games, and it has been an absolute wrecking ball. You do have to use it with something like Teleport, or to slow U-turn to Volt Switch, however, that is not enough to keep it away. It's able to get kills most times it gets in, on all honesty, and it's able to force a huge threat. Of course, if you're using something like Tangrowth, then you're able to pivot and at least see what it's switching into, but even then, it's going to be doing a ton of damage despite resistances and whatnot to other Pokemon, and you gotta be really careful. Most games, it's going to be getting kills, and while it might not be the most specially bulky Pokemon without leftovers and special investment, it still goes a long way. It also is a good Swords Dance Sweeper and Stealth Rock setter as well. All things considered, Rhyperior is one of the up-and-coming Pokemon in metagame. It does great against Zeraora, Rotom Heat, Non-Giga Drain, Volcarona, Tyranitar, etc. And it also just deals out a ton of damage, so I definitely would advise trying it out. Anyway, on top of Rhyperior, another ground-type Pokemon that we see surging in viability is going to be Gastrodon. Gastrodon is a really cool option right now, as it has the ability Sticky Hold, and Sticky Hold means that you cannot displace this item no matter what. Now, you might recall last metagame Monday was on Knockoff and Trick, moves that are able to remove items which lead to chipping Pokemon and making incremental progress. The thing is, Gastrodon's a wall that you can't necessarily do it for, and I get it, it doesn't have all the pizzazz of Toxapex in terms of the raw defensive presence or Regenerator, but it still goes a long way. Specifically, the ground plus water typing is great, as it's only really weak to grass types and freeze dry, and it's able to check things like non-grass types Zeraora, Rotom Heat, and Tyranitar as well. It also has Clear Smog, which makes it great against non-Giga Drain Volcarona, or even in the short haul, Calm Mind Clefable, just kind of seeing what it's going for. And all in all, I think that Gastrodon is a really underrated option right now. I like it with boots and leftovers of Sticky Hold. It's really great, a way to give a middle finger to to Trick Clefable, and other trick options or knockoff options as well. And I think that Gastrodon has a place on a lot of teams right now. I personally use it a ton with Skarmory and Corviknight, as well as it takes advantage of Magnezone a ton, and that's really cool too. Oh yeah, it's also like the premier Magnezone answer, not to mention that, but yeah. All things considered, I think Gastrodon's pretty underrated right now. I'm glad to see it rising in viability and kind of reflecting that. Next up, we have Tyranitar. Tyranitar is finally beginning to surface once more. Sandstream is obviously a great ability, but it's able to use its defensive presence that extensively gives it with the special defense boost to help check things like Kyurem, Volcarona, Rotom Heat, Gengar, like Dragapult, and more. While it can't check things like Aegislash, you can also pivot into Shadow Ball and then switch out baiting the close combat, and cores like this and stringing counterplay together like that goes a long way. But on top of all of that, it can be a great stealth arc supporter, it can force process and things like Clefable. And again, beyond all of this, it's a great supporter to Excadrill, which can function as a cleaner, a win condition, or a revenge killer, depending on how you wish to use it on sand teams. So that's really cool, and I think that Tyranitar has suddenly become a very convenient and practical Pokemon in the metagame that helps check things off, the kind of team building checklist that you have mentally, if you will, while also just being Tyranitar, so why the hell not use it? I really like it right now. Personally, I prefer using Stealth Arc, Thunder Wave, Rock Blast, either Flamethrower, Crunch, Rest, or potentially Counter, but you know, it really depends on your team. That aside though, next up we have Urshifu Rapid Strike. Urshifu Rapid Strike is another physical attacker. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Wicked Blow like the regular Urshifu does, but it still hits very strong with Surging Strike, especially if you're not hitting into a resistant Pokemon like Toxapex or Mungus, and those Pokemon can be especially problematic with Rocky Helmet, which is what held it back to begin with. But now, when you pair it with things like Carmine Thunderbolt Clefable for Toxapex, or Kyurem for both Toxapex and Amoonguss, etc., or even put it on rain teams with Spikes, it can go a long way towards helping it break, find openings, or at least covering those matchups that you find otherwise problematic. All in all, I view Urshifu Rapid Strike as a decent but not amazing Pokemon, and this rise reflected it. It went from being more fringe viable in the C ranks to just being like, okay, it's clearly viable. There are good teams with it, and we saw that in OLT when more people used it than Urshifu for a cycle or two there, which was really impressive, but at the same time, Urshifu Rapid Strike is still limited. There are still some consistent checks and counters to it that hold it back, and it's more of a cheesy option than anything else. I think that B rank is perfectly reflective of this state, and I'm curious to see how it will develop alongside the metagame. On top of this, there's also Primarina. Primarina is another water type that has great offensive value, but it is still limited. It is more of a one-trick pony, or one-trick, whatever you want to call Primarina right now. And that trick is Ruining Substitute plus Combine. Unfortunately, that set is walled by Blissey, and that is not a great look because Blissey just sits there, Seismitoss breaks up, heals up, and you know, that is rough. But with that kept in mind, I will say this. Primarina can break through teams that are unprepared very easily, very efficiently. You can't just run a team and like, oh, I'm not going to cover Primarina at all, because unless that team happens to have like Power with Ferrothorn, which you basically run to prepare for Primarina, so that's not even a fair example, or a Blissey, which you run for a million other things, then it's going to struggle with it. And Sub-Command Primarina is one of the best Pokemon at like kind of taking a game and pulling it out of your butt, and, you know, just saying, oh, I win the game because they're unprepared for it, despite, you know, maybe being behind or not being in the greatest position. And that goes a long way, and that alone makes it viable. It surged in usage during OLT. It's definitely seeing a bit of a fallback now. I'd say it might have even been B or B plus ranked during the middle of the OLT surge, but it's still a very viable option. And last but not least, Comfy is now ranked because John W. is a demon. That is all I have to say on that. Alrighty, next up, we have a handful of drops as well. Oh, they're all on my screen already. That's perfect. So first off, we have Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is an interesting option in the metagame. It's definitely still a viable defogger and defensive presence, checking things like Dragapult, Aegislash especially, and even Excadrill. However, it's limited in what it can do because it doesn't match up well with many Hazard Setters and it's primarily used as a defogger. It struggles with Pokemon like Clefable, Toxic Excadrill or Powdon, Leech plus Body plus Ferrothorn, which prevents it from roosting up, and Rhyperior, which is a lot to overcome considering it's a defog user and all those Pokemon set up hazards and like you're not really able to defog much because they just come in on you again and just set them right back up and it's like, it's not very efficient. And unfortunately, Corviknight's able to deal with a majority of those Pokemon pretty well. And because of that, it's hard to get by using Mandibuzz. It's really hard, and, you know, I think it still works on select teams, and it's definitely worthy of being in the A- rank, but putting it higher when it was once seen as, you know, a staple in the metagame, it's just no longer possible, and that just shows where the metagames went over the last couple of months, so that's interesting. Next up, we have Slowbro, another Pokemon that was hyped a ton upon DLC's release, but unfortunately it's not lived up to the hype whatsoever. In fact, it's even a UU Pokemon right now, and it's doing very well in UU, but not quite the case in OU as it falls from A- to B+. Slowbro struggles to counter many Pokemon. I mean, it's not a counter much. Like, it checks Excadrill, I guess, but it doesn't do well against Zero. Or Dragapult, Rillaboom, you know, common physical attackers. It's just like, shit, I don't really deal with it. Urshifu, forget about it. So yeah, Slowbro struggles to counter many offensive threats, and the niche of Teleport plus Regenerate is just not being used enough to warrant it being in the A rank. So that's what it is. And then next up, we have Torkoal and Venusaur falling from B+ to B. Unfortunately, some teams have seen a steady decline with the uptick in Sand, Tyranitar, and even Hippowdon being great right now. The metagame's adapting to the once being like closer to mainstream and just saying, okay, we're going to dick over Sun, and that's basically what happened. And that's what happens a lot of times when a more like cheesy and consistent archetype gets exploited once people start using it more and more. And that's one of the many reasons why Tyranitar's seen an uptick in usage. And that's just really cool, kind of metagame reactionary stuff and natural, you know, rises and declines in the viability rankings is being reflected here. So, we're just seeing the history of SSOU and trends followed by counter trends unfolding in front of our very eyes. And I think this is something that's really important to document, and I'm glad that I'm the person sharing this information with whoever might be watching this video. So yeah, next up we have Chansey, which is just in Blissy's shadow completely, which is kind of the opposite of what we've seen in the last couple generations. Unfortunately for any Chansey fanatics out there, item displacement's at an all-time high, which very much limits Eviolite Chansey, especially because Blissy's access to teleport with boots, which makes it a much more convenient pivot. All things considered, Chansey might be viable on some fringe stall teams, but with Trick and Knockup just being so prominent, it's very hard to justify in my eyes, and it's failed to C rank because of that, despite being, initially in the A ranks and then the B ranks, and now it's like all the way down in the C. So I think that says a lot about where the metagame's, developed, returning to Chansey. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Team Player Cat, Incineroar. Unfortunately, Incineroar, while a very cool design and interesting Pokemon in my eyes, one of my favorites in fact, it's taking a huge hit in viability. Aegis being back helps it a little bit, but even that can close combat it, and it just doesn't really check or counter much. It maybe can switch into things one time like Rillaboom or Dragapult, but it doesn't answer in a long time. It has no natural recovery. It's just pivot that's relatively passive. It can come in and out with U-turn or parting shot, sure, and inflict Will-O-Wisp, but things like Hippowdon, Rhyperior, Toxapex, and even Clefable, they just all completely shrug it off, and they can't really do anything to them. So yeah, it's disappointing to see where Incineroar has kind of fallen to after being a really viable pivot in the pre-DLC metagame. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on all these Pokemon. Do you think these rises were good? Do you think these rises were bad? Do you think these drops are good? Do you think these drops are bad? And anything else you have to comment on the metagame or these Pokemon right now, guys. Anyway, I'm going to leave you here. Stay tuned for Metagame Monday and more metagame analysis videos in the near future. Be sure to like if you guys enjoyed this video, comment if you have anything to say whatsoever, or just to say hi, guys, because I love talking to y'all, and subscribe. We just hit 5,000. I'm looking forward to surging through our next goals of 6,000, 7,000, and so on. And I'm really excited to just kind of continue to expand the channel and have fun interacting with y'all. So definitely, be around, like, comment, subscribe, and if you guys are having trouble getting better at the game, or you want more than just these videos, or you just want to say, oh, I need a foolproof way to get good at this is a hobby that I'm really interested in, check out Jambed's book. The link will for sure be in the description, but there's so much great content in that book. It even helped me improve, and I've been playing this game for over 9 years now, which is absolutely crazy. So definitely check that out. It's foolproof. It'll take some time, but reading through it and just following those steps, it's one-stop shop to improving. My link for it will be in the description below. Click on that, and there'll be a website for it that just outlines it pretty cleanly. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. And last, but certainly not least, feel free to join the Finchinator Discord, guys. Really active and lively discussion of the metagame, competitive Pokemon, and all sorts of other things right now. We have over 700 people, and it's one of my favorite places to go and just chat every single day. So if you ever want to talk to me, that's definitely the place. But anyway, with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. All right, peace out.